Keri had chosen to do things the hard way all her life, so it was no surprise that she gave birth to Wairere alone. Others were supposed to have been there, the midwife, the assistant midwife and her mother, but it was 3:15 a.m. when she called them, and everything was calm, and everyone thought she'd be okay for another couple of hours. First babies aren't born quickly, everyone knows that. But Keri's contractions moved from 30-minute intervals to 10-minute intervals in an hour, and before she knew it, she was heaving on the toilet, thinking she might die before anyone reached her. They said they'd come at 6, and it was only 4:30 a.m. and she couldn't make it to the phone to call, just to her knees by the bed, where she was overcome with the need to push. She tried to hold back, but she didn't know how, and the pushing alleviated the pain. The pushing was like all heaven's angels gathering around her uterus and squeezing with their heavenly fingers, and she wasn't even religious. She visualized a flower opening like the birthing video said, even though she didn't believe in that hippie shit. She didn't care what she had to believe to make the pain subside. She was a sea anemone. She was a mud goddess in a slaughterhouse. She was a gunslinger racing a train on a half-wild horse. Maybe she was delirious. Or maybe it was the movie marathon she had just watched that evening, when she was still ignorant and pregnant, not really the woman she had imagined herself to be after all, but some innocent child. Now that Keri was half woman, half amphibious animal birthing itself onto land, she understood that she was entering the darkness from which it was necessary to draw life forward. She was going in to clasp her child from the embrace of the gods who inhabited the world on the other side of life. She was becoming something else, something powerful and mad, Kali, Medusa, Hinenuitepo. Of course, it made sense as soon as she said the name to herself, the great lady of the night, mother of the dark, fierce and fearsome. With nobody else around, she could let all these ancient and imaginary selves flare into being, if only for that sweet moment when the pain drove her right out of her mind. Then the contraction subsided and she was back, realizing she didn't want something to happen to the baby even if she lost herself. So she found the phone and made the calls. But no one arrived until after. After the birthing of the head left her wide-legged and two-headed, an unfledged hydra. After her daughter slipped full-bodied from between her legs, slick and seal-like. After she lifted the babe into her arms, curled in a warm, wet ball, and found herself gazing into eyes that came not from darkness, but from before the dark existed. The midwife and the assistant midwife and her mother arrived to find Keri wrapped in her quilt on the floor, the baby sucking on her fist, eyes firmly shut against the lights they switched on to assess the damage. Her mother set about cleaning the room. The midwife set about managing the birthing of placenta and stitching the places Keri had torn. The baby didn't cry and Keri didn't speak, except to answer the midwife's questions. For some time after that, at least until the pito umbilicus had fallen off, and for 2 or 3 weeks more, Keri could still see the place beyond and behind the dark whenever she gazed into her daughter's eyes. But then the baby began to focus more on the world she now inhabited, and her eyes developed a regular, this worldly brown colour. Though when she fixed people with her stare, they inevitably felt like she was staring into their soul, and what she found there was perplexing. Te Aotearoa lands, Kapiti, sometime in the near future. You will find me in the meeting point between open seas and solid land, in the seam of sky and earth, between what you think you know and what you don't. The creatures that flock my way exist here too, water birds and land-migrating fish, metamorphic, amphibious, mythical. And that is where Wairere seeks me, whenever she is troubled, like today, all held in tears and shoulders hunched until she gets away from the house. She takes a deep breath at the corner and looks both ways, not really seeing but instinctively avoiding fast-moving objects, cars, people, scooters, dogs, planets, then moves as quick as she can without running,